What I do here is my very fed happy starter. It was in a small thing. This is actually the one that I just reactivated. So it is very happy. And I am going to start a sourdough right now. So I'm gonna put this, goodness. Okay. I'm going to put this in here, and then what I have left over, the way I've been doing it lately is I do about 50 grams of starter and then flour and water, and I haven't been keeping an excess of sourdough starter for discard. I've just been doing it for basically what I need to make my 2 loaves of bread. I'm gonna empty this out in here, and then I'll show you how I feed it. I want to jump on here to say a little bit more about discard. So the reason that you discard is because when you're feeding sourdough, you need at least equal parts starter to flour to water. I prefer doing a smaller amount of starter, like the 50 grams, and then doing more water and more flour. But you at least need equal parts. So if you're thinking every single time, if you are not using a bunch of that for a recipe, you're going to be increasing your amount of flour and water every time to where your sourdough starter is going to be huge. If you want your sourdough starter huge, then that's great, and you can use it more and more for discard in different recipes. But if you're wanting to just keep it like a little bit smaller and manageable, you're going to need to discard. Now, the way I'm going to show you today is how I feed mine to use the active starter, enough of it for a recipe, and then what I have remaining is what I use to feed it, instead of having a lot of excess for discard. However, if you have a lot of discard, that is totally okay. And there's so many recipes on YouTube to use for discard. I actually have a jar in my fridge where I just add the discard to that. And then when I want to make a recipe with discard, I have enough in my fridge to use. I hope that's helpful. Okay, so I get my scale and I put this thing on there and I zero it out. Now for the sourdough recipe that I use 200 grams. So it'll probably be just about right. All right, there we go. Now, this is a disastrous mess because it overflowed. Honestly, you want to know why it's overflowed? Because I'm taking pictures of it for the website and it looks better active and overflowing. So I did that on purpose. Although, you know, it always has kind of bugged me when there's pictures like that, except for sourdough, because it just shows how active and bubbly it is. You know those accounts on Instagram that show like their smoothie they're making and it's like overflowed and everywhere? That actually kind of drives me nuts. So this should be just the right amount. I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit, settle down there, and then we'll feed it. Now that I don't need this to bubble over, I'm gonna put it in the proper size jar. Here we go. I will zero it out, and then I'm going to take this. I use the end of my wooden spoon, and I'm going to measure out. You can just do it in the same jar, but I need to do it in a bigger jar right now, so I don't think you have to take it and measure out each time. Okay, that's 50 grams exactly. And now I'm going to zero it out, and then I'm going to do 130 grams of water. It needs to be filtered water. No chlorine can be in it, so no tap water needs to be filtered. If you don't have filtered water, you can leave it out overnight and let the chlorine evaporate. I love that I'm like slouching down because this camera is so low. So I'm gonna zero it out, and now I'm going to do 150 of flour around there. Is it 150? Okay. I use the end of my wooden spoon. And I stir. You want to make sure you get all of it incorporated. Now, if you get it to this point and you think it needs a little bit more water, it's okay to add a little bit more. Like, this is kind of the consistency right now. Okay, I'm gonna put just a tiny little bit, like that. Keep them in. So there we go. Some people make it a little bit more watery, but I think that's perfect. And then I will cover it up, and it will be ready to use tomorrow. It's colder right now, so it takes a little bit longer. I will just cover it up and it will be ready to go. If I wasn't going to be making bread again in just a couple days, I wouldn't have fed this. I would have started to make my sourdough, and I would have put the lid on and I would have put it in the fridge. I've kept mine in the fridge for 2 weeks at a time, but typically what I do is I keep it in my fridge for a week. I take it out 1 to 2 times a week. The night before I want to use it, I take it out, I feed it, and then it's ready the next morning. Now, because because it is in the colder winter months, I turn on my toaster oven over here and get it kind of warm in that corner. There are warming mats that you can buy specifically for sourdough that help keep things warm when it's cooler in the winter months. But I'm gonna be cooking with this in a couple days, and I wanted to show you how I feed it. This is basically just the right amount for you to make the 200 grams to put in your sourdough and then have the leftover to be able to feed it. If you're wanting to keep more, Farmhouse on Boone, she has a great Q&A thing and talks about sourdough. She has a playlist of sourdough and really helpful information. She keeps a very large thing of it and uses the discard all the time. I used to do that, but I don't do as much of everything sourdough. I do my sourdough and I also make normal yeast bread as well. So I stopped doing that. But this should be ready tomorrow to be able to use. And when you don't want to use it anymore, you can literally put the lid on, put it in your fridge and keep it in there for quite some time. If it's been in there for a really long time, it can take a little bit more time to get it to come back. But unless there's mold growing on it, it is very hard to kill sourdough. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to start making my sourdough now, but that's not for this video. Just wanted this to be a really quick one of how I take care of my sourdough starter. If you have any more questions, you can leave them down below and I would love to help as much as I can. Have a good day.